Joining me this Sunday on The Sofa with Esther is Angelo Starr, singer, musician, record producer, who will be talking about what he's been up to lately and also his solo performance and appearance at Soultasia on the 1st of September. Okay, well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are across the globe. Welcome to On the Sofa with Esther. Do you like my earrings, by the way, Angelo?
I absolutely love them. I was going to mention it as I saw them.
This is the mood I'm feeling in today. But I'd like to welcome you onto my platform. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Angelo Starr. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant. I remember interviewing you, I think it was around COVID, and we had such a beautiful discussion, very deep and enriching. So, welcome back onto the platform. And before we go any further, I'm going to ask you, because I like to ask all my guests, who is Angelo in a nutshell, in a peanut shell, maybe a crab shell?
No, I'll take it, however, shell. No, I'm a musician at heart. I'm a American-born singer-songwriter, musician, and I, for many people, am simply the younger brother of the soul singer Edwin Starr. But for those who know me, of course, there's a lot more to it than that. But that's a lot
Yeah.
of people's first point of entry is oh, he's Edwin Starr's baby brother.
But like you said, with this interview, we're going to expose and expand on who is Edwin Starr's brother, and we'll see that you are a legend in your own right. And what I love about you, and I remember that from when I interviewed you the time before, is your there's exuberance. I almost feel not to be put in a box, but to for whatever comes through you and out of you, that's what you want to present to the world. But the message is really about love. Is that right, Angelo? Or you can just expand on that.
That's certainly true. I mean, one of the things about most of the creative people I found that I connect with throughout my own journey is most of us got involved in what we're doing, not for fame or fortune, but because we loved it. And I think that thought has held me in good stead throughout the course of my career. You know, if you genuinely love something, it will show through in what you do, and the fans seem to have responded to that in not only my performances but the performances of most groups that I've been associated with, because whenever we go out there we give our all.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, for me, in some respects, sometimes missing when I see people starting their career and only concerned about the financial gain that it potentially holds for them. There's something to be said for somebody who does something because they're loving it. And I'm sure that we do see that. So that's, for me, kind of where the smile starts. It's from inside of me. It's like I still love, after all these years, I still love what it is that I had chosen to do.
Excellent, excellent. And what genre or genres would you place your music, your style into on Angelo?
That's a funny question, actually, because um, I think it is an amalgamation of lots of different things.
Mhm.
When I was a kid, I started uh, playing violin in my high school, not my high school, but in elementary school in America. And that was alongside of listening to my parents' soul collection from the 50s and early 60s. That was in addition to listening to my older brothers and sisters' music collections from the 60s and 70s
Eclectic.
and 80s. And all those kinds of things melded into what I consider to be my style, if you will, for lack of a better term. It's just basically I like things which I like stories. So I like songs that have a story in them, a beginning, a middle, and an end. But not only that, I kind of also like things which kind of connect me in some way. You know, if it's a ballad, then I want it to reach me somehow. You know, if it's a funky tune, a dance tune, that I wanted to make my toes move when I have to look down and figure out why. You know, you know, I like all kinds of music, and I think all of those musics that I listen to or have tried to listen to seem to kind of find their way into whatever it is that I actually am doing at that time. So jazz, R&B, soul, pop, classical, you know, just about everything. Uh, even now and again, a little country and western.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody done me wrong song, you know. But
Bit of Dolly Parton.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
And it's interesting because what's coming to me is, out of all the different genres, and music is this, I would say, this eclectic collage that you can bring together, put together, mix and match, and create out of it. But individually, it's still magic. So, who would you say have been some of your heroes from different genres? Just because we got the soul, you got R&B, a bit of pop. So, who are some of your heroes or people that you grew up listening to from those different places?
I absolutely love longevity. You know, people who've kind of figured out how to survive throughout their whole career and be able to adapt and or change as necessary without losing themselves. So, you know, there's a lot of people who fall in that category, from Ray Charles to Charlie Pride to Dolly Parton and Loretta Lynn to Chuck Berry to, you know, Elvis Presley to Earth, Wind and Fire to
That's,
Prince, you know, James Brown.
yeah.
The list just kind of goes on and on. But of course, somewhere in that, I also have to consider um, my influence is close to home. You know, as you know, and I hope some of your listeners will know, my brother was Edwin Starr, and when I grew up as a kid, I had to uh, see his career kind of change from the early '60s style of soul that existed at that time to transitioning into more disco and, you know, R&B of that era, and to be able to also navigate how you take that forward into the noughties, and you know, and it's an interesting thing to be able to see from so close, because some of it's conscious
Mm,
and some of it's unconscious. It's just, you know, as things in the world change around you, you find yourself adapting naturally in
yeah.
some cases. But then in some cases, you have to also be pulled along, because our comfort zone is wherever it is, you know. So yeah, all of that. But everybody's journey kind of overlaps with everyone else. And I'll
Mm,
tell you what I mean by that. It's like I remember sometimes my brother would come over into Europe and he'd bring back some music from over here. And I would hear people like, you know, Elton John and David Bowie and, you know, Cream and things that I may not have necessarily heard as a young kid growing up in America at that time. But those influences became a part of my influences, you know,
mm,
and then that becomes a part of your music throughout your career, as you sometimes get a chance to meet those people, which I have done some of them,
yeah.
and sometimes just as you realize there's things within the genre that you love the most that aren't satisfied by not having those other things in your music too. You know, if you like rock guitar and you're
Mm,
not getting enough of it, then you have to reach outside to get it, you know. Unless of course you grew up with, like I did, like the Isley Brothers, where they'd have a ballad and they'd have a distortion guitar solo going through it. That's the kind of amalgamation I mean that seemed to, you know, influence me growing up.
mm. And they say a little bit of something, something new, something blue, something old, something new, and you put that into the melting pot, and it's interesting what you get when you stir that melting pot and what comes through. But also, you realize sometimes, because sometimes we can put ourselves in a box in terms of this is only what we listen to, this is only what we eat, and when we allow ourselves to expand out of that, there's so much more magic that we can tap into that can also influence our own style whilst we hold on to our own style, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, I've often said to people, I'm very fortunate because, I got a chance to stand behind some very celebrated musical people
Mm.
during the course of their journey. And it's easier to make mistakes when you're not being watched, right? You make your mistakes before the world is seeing. So I spent 14 years playing guitar with Alexander O'Neill. I learned a lot from being on stage with him. I spent a lot of time with my brother Edwin. I've performed with Lemar for like 14 years or something since he came out of on the television show. So I saw a different generation and how they do that. But just it's really weird because every hat you have a tendency to wear gives you the opportunity to learn something new. It's
Yes. Yeah. And you're open to that learning,
oh
because we've never we never quite arrive, and whatever arriving means. But the more that you learn is the more you grow, and the more you can play with the magic of the music. Because I believe that life is this um, magical ballroom, and you've got all the lights switching on and off, and it's almost like I want to tango today, I want to salsa today, I want to try, it just gives yourself the opportunity to try different things.
yeah,
That,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's again, hearing you say that reminds me of something that I've heard myself say many times,
Mm,
is that, as a creative in whatever industry you are, you have to have the freedom, I guess that's the right word, to experiment with yourself, you know. And if you wake up today and you feel like doing something that you're not known for, in inverted commas, as a creative entity, you should still have the chance to do that. If you wake up today and you feel like doing a pop tune and you've never done a pop tune before in your life, then do
right.
it. You know,
Yes.
if a lot of people will, you asked me earlier, how would I identify myself? And for a lot of people, I've done quite a few releases in the Northern Soul genre in
Mm,
the UK. And for a lot of people, that's how they know me, as a Northern Soul kind of artist. But in America, no such thing exists as Northern Soul, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
So that's why I'm careful that you have to put the descriptions on what you do second to what you do, because
Mm,
somebody else will hear it and they will say something different. They'll say, "Oh, I like that song that you wrote. It's lovers, It's two step. It's lovers. It's right. It's got this yard. They will give a description of it that you may not even know exists. And that's why, as a creative, you just want to do what you do, and hopefully people find a label to put on it that
yeah.
means they like it,
I mean,
whatever you call it.
absolutely. And even just watching you perform, I've not seen you live, and I have to get around to seeing you perform live one day. But just seeing you in your videos on YouTube, there's this you have this bounce about you, and I know music does that, but you've always, and I feel that's what I saw in you the last time. You've just got this, like a little bunny. You got this bunny hop about you, and then you just launch into the music, and it's just you can just feel the joy and everything in that moment, that you're giving and being in that space, and it's just really infectious.
Esther, I'm very conscious of the fact that everybody has their own things that they're going through in their life. Today may not be a great day for everyone. But if they tap into the music at that point, they're looking for the music to help them do something, to evoke some kind of emotion, either to share in the sadness that they have, or perhaps pull them out of that sadness, or to
Mhm.
create a joy that they didn't have before. So people are looking for something in the music that you supply to them. And the best thing you can do as an artist is try to be honest with what it is you're doing. Because
Yes.
if they then connect with it, then they're getting the best that you have to give at that moment, and
Mm.
that will change across your life and across your career. Sometimes you release something and you absolutely love it at the time you release, and afterwards you think back and it's like,
Mm.
maybe not that one.
Yeah.
But then someone will come across you years later and say that that was their favorite song ever, you know, because for them at that moment it said what they needed it to say. So um, it's those kinds of things that try to help you keep going as an artist, because you never know what uh, the end acceptance of what you do will be. And you have to just try to love it as much as you can when you finish it, and hope that somebody else somewhere in the world will too at some point, and keep on moving, keep it moving.
Excellent, excellent. And what would you say, and it may or may not be this, but what would you say is your message in your music, if you have a message at all, or is it just a free flow of, coming from that space of love?
Well, if there's one that exists, it is purely that life is short, you
Yes.
know. So you don't get a chance. This is not a preparation, so to speak, for the next time you get the chance to do it. This is something in and of itself. So you just try to have the best time to go, and to be present.
Mm,
It's like I not generally one for uh saying next time, well, next time, other time after that, or down the road.
mm,
It's like this is it, you know. Each moment is it. If you have an opportunity to do something, then this is that moment. And it doesn't matter if it's one person in front of you or thousands of people, you know, because that's what they say. They say success is actually when being prepared and having opportunity meet.
yes.
So if you're not prepared and you get an opportunity, that's not going to help you, is it? Or vice versa. So you need those two things to kind of happen at the same time. And that for me is why you have to just be in the moment. If you get it right and the opportunity is there and you're prepared, you're on point, then everybody gets it.
Jump. Oh my gosh, this is such a great message and interview because I did something today. I went and I'm getting some stuff made up because I'm traveling soon. And some of the styles that I've created, they're different.
Yes.
And I walked out, I'm like, but this is my soul. This is how I'm feeling. This is
Yeah.
my expression, not to be locked in this, but to be locked in this and
Yeah.
to tap into this. And so this is almost like an affirmation of what I've done today, which is brilliant, which is brilliant. And we're coming up to a couple of performances that you will be doing. Um,
Yes.
and you're going to be at Sultasia in Cheltenham next week. Tell us what the audience can expect from Angelo Starr because it's going to be a solo performance.
Yes, that's right. The Soultasia one is, we're still in the process of grafting in that arena, as you say. Sometimes I have to go out and do it myself and just make sure that the organizers get a chance to see what a flavor of what might be there at a future time, if I am able to go back and take the whole band or whatever. But at the moment I'm going there on my own, but I'm never on my own because the audience is there. That's the that's the extra bit. So I'm going to on this occasion, I'm going to do some of my brother's classic songs because those are what a lot of people have heard me do live, and they kind of want to hear that from me. And I have a tendency not to do that so much as a solo artist because I didn't want people to believe I was ever trying to be my
Oh,
brother,
okay.
But in this
But
case,
what
it's
is it
not.
for? And you're supposed to say absolutely
Absolutely
nothing.
nothing. you know so it's an entry point for a lot of people who may or may not know of me as a soloist, but it gives me the chance to go and carry the torch of the family,
Mm,
and to give them the opportunity to see that this is something that's still moving forward. uh, some
excellent.
people some people might have expected that after my brother passed away, which was in 2003, that might have been the last time to see his music performed live in the way that he did it.
Hmm.
And he was very instrumental in making sure that I knew and that all of the band knew that, if you got it right during your career, then the music would survive beyond you. So this is a chance to help the music continue to survive beyond him and to introduce people to myself as well, who may or may not know the connection or
Ex-
my original material.
Excellent, excellent. And then where to, in terms of albums, anything coming out over the next, couple of months or so?
Well, there's always music being developed. I've my last album, which has been a few years ago now, was called
The Midnight.
uh The Midnight Feast. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's been a few years from now. That was one of those vanity projects that I had to get it out. It wasn't overproduced and it wasn't over studioed or
But it's very
over anything.
homey though. The tracks are very homey, very down to earth.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess was this around or after the lockdown? Because it seemed to sort of speak to that moment.
Yeah, what it was is I'd started an album that I was going to release in the early 2000s, and because of life changes, Edwin passing away and other things, one thing or another, I decided not to. It's just that by the time I got back to that project, I, as a creative person, wasn't in that same space.
Mm.
So I thought I have an album in me that I'd like to do. But it's not, it's just as it feels. So I just did it as it felt and got it out there, and every artist has one of those in them where he has to just say, this is how I feel. And I don't know if anybody else will feel that way or if they'll get it on it. But that was that product. But since then, I've had a couple of songs that I've been putting together for an EP.
Mhm.
And I think there's some really good stuff there. One of the songs I'm working on with a guy, Kevin Sutherland, who is,
Oh, Kevin, yes.
Kevin, yeah.
Love
Well,
Kevin, yeah.
yeah, Kevin's a great musician and producer and so forth. So there's a project I'm working on with him because I want to do a song which kind of harps back to my personal influences within the R&B, funk, R&B, that kind of itchy. And he's definitely the guy for that. So we're starting to work on that now, and that's to go alongside of a ballad, an emotive ballad that I've created, which I'm quite excited about, to be honest with you. But I'm holding on just for a second because I want it to be a part of that same project. So that's what's in the can to come out individually.
Okay,
And and
brilliant.
then I'm working on some material with the Edwin Starr band as well, which we've got one or two things recorded, but we're looking for the one. What
Okay.
we have is good, but it's not the one that I would like for us to be able to release right now because most people know us for our live performances, and there's a certain energy and a
Mm.
certain dynamic that brings that the recording uh, can or cannot capture to your benefit as an artist. And right now, what we have are good recordings, but I would like for us to have that one that captures what people have a tendency to see when we're live. And that's the one that we're working on
And
next.
you'll know as well, won't you? You'll know because you just know when it's the one, isn't it?
Well, so many songs for artists. I remember seeing artists like Commodores and things like that when I was young, or Kool and the Gang when I was, you know, a lot of songs were developed on the road. They
Hmm.
were outgrowths of things that the band did when they were on stage live. And they saw how it worked with the people and they said, that's the one. And then they took it into the studio
Yes, yes.
rather than the other way around. Sometimes we kind of create things and then we have to hope that people like it. But
Then
this one that I'm trying to, push for is the other way around. It's the one that the people want from you, and that's the one you do.
okay. Well, you got me on the edge of my seat around that. So, oh, look, I'm sweating. Gosh, getting warm. Oh, but Angela, it's been as always a pleasure talking to you. And winding down, is there anything you want to leave with audience? And it's not just the audience who are going to be at Soul Taser, but just people generally, especially, there's a lot that people are having to manage, contend with at this moment in time, and the energy out there is quite intense. So what words of wisdom or, can you leave with us?
Well, the one thing I would, ask is that, people take the time with music to not treat it as disposable.
Mm.
You know, I know there's more music out there than we've ever had access to with all of the streaming services, all the internet-based services. There's more music than we've ever had access to. But for a lot of people, that makes the quantity
Mm.
makes the quality go down.
Yes,
And I would suggest that we don't allow the quality to slip just because we have access to so much quantity. Pick the good stuff, support the good stuff, and your good stuff might not be somebody else's good stuff. I get that, but
mm.
it allows all the artists to survive rather than all of them just becoming disposable.
Disposable. Excellent. Excellent. Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, wishing you all the best, and I'm looking forward to that one, Angelo.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me. And to all your listeners and viewers, thanks for the continued support. As
Brilliant.
always, we love you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Jazz. I'm a lifestyle manager and also a professional butler to one of the richest and wealthiest celebrities around the world. One of the services that I provide is a personal shopping experience here in London. And some of the things that we do, apart from shopping, is that I take you to places like this, which is called Japan House, where you can learn all about Japanese culture. And we're going to have an afternoon